Hey everyone, it's Shireen and JD again.
Hello!
We're here continuing our November cooking spree, which has been so much fun. We did Rogan Josh last week. Thank you for everyone who joined. And everyone's been cooking it like ever since, which I love. And it's like turning out great. So that makes me feel so good. That was a longer video because that's probably a lot to teach. So I took the time to do that. But that's probably the longest dish you'll make, and that'll take probably an hour. But as we continue, we're doing a lot of vegetable sides because I think they're perfect for Thanksgiving. I don't even think you have to adjust them too much. So we're going to do mushroom today, very quick, very easy. We're going to do spinach next week. I'm going to show you this here. Back to. I'll show it more in a minute.
Hi, Magna. Good to see you.
We're going to do spinach next week because it's a very easy saute, and it's a very kind of light and bright blend, so it can translate to a cream spinach really well. And then the following week, which is like on awesome side, if you do mint jelly, as part of your table, it's great to have as a side to spice it up. So there's like a choice. You can do it just with mint if you'd like, if you have some nice fresh mint. So all of this just feels like it's just a great way to add a little something to your Thanksgiving table without necessarily transforming it. So there's just something for everyone if they want a little bit more spice and a little bit more liveliness. And the other thing with the vegetables is, like, I really try to impress upon people that Indian vegetables are delicious. They are not like the side afterthought because you're like, oh, I need a vegetable. They really stand on their own. As you probably know, there's just a very big vegetarian population in India, and so a lot of these dishes, they sustain as a main course. This mushroom with some rice, or even if you just wrapped it up in a tortilla, if that's all you have, is delicious. It's great. So, and this is super quick. And one of the things I love to show about with the mushroom, because it is so quick, is when we make the masala paste, that's just a very, very basic technique. High heat cooking your spices, adding your tomato or onion to make that paste before you put in your vegetable or your meat. I'm going to spend a little more time talking about that here because this dish is so quick. And when you get this technique down, that's really where all the flavor is for Indian cooking. We talked about it with Rogan Josh last week, but it's even for the most simple dish, if you do this part right in no amount of time, it's super delicious. So we're going to get started. So I have here our mushroom masala, which is a very bright and flavorful spice blend for a quick sauteed mushroom. And the ingredients are quite simple. There's really just tomato. You're supposed to use garlic cloves. I actually did not have garlic cloves today, so I'm going to stick with my Indian pantry item of just some garlic paste, a teaspoon of garlic paste to replace the 3 garlic cloves, a pound of mushrooms. I go white or cremini. I just find the texture of those mushrooms really absorbs the spice blend really well. I don't find as much success with the shiitake mushrooms. You can try it, if it works, great. But I think if it's your first time, give it a try with a white or like a baby bella cremini mushroom. It really comes out great. For the white, I keep the stem on because they're soft enough. If the stem is hard, I tend to just pull it off. I did it with these baby bella ones because they were a little bit hard, and it just doesn't. It's not a good texture. It doesn't absorb the spice, and it can kind of like take away from the flavor of the dish. So I went ahead and I quartered these, not sliced. Sorry if I did say sliced. You want something a little bit thicker, a little bit more substance, so it does stand out as like a really textured, delicious main course, and even as a side to just have the flavor sitting on more of a mushroom. It just sort of balances. I think it balances better. And that took like 5 minutes, super easy. I had to clean it well though. Okay, so all we're really gonna do, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna turn this on, and because mushrooms actually cook quickly, they release a lot of water, they're very soft and spongy. I actually like to use olive oil. You can use a high heat neutral oil for all of our cooking, but I like sort of having a little bit of that flavor of olive oil, which I typically don't use because, as we talked about before, it burns. And since so much of Indian cooking is really done on medium-high heat, you don't want that burnt flavor of the oil in your food. But I'm going to actually, because I do like the olive oil, and this works for this, I'm going to use medium heat and use olive oil. And if you want to kind of speed it up, go ahead and use the high heat neutral oil, and then you can sort of do the whole thing on medium-high heat. So I'll let this get ready, and all I'm going to do is add a couple tablespoons of olive oil and let that get hot. And then in this case, there's not even onion in this, it's so simple, just tomato. So I'm going to saute the tomato, until it's really like broken down. You'll start to see some oil seeping out, all the liquid will be released, the skin will be super soft. There's no really there's little chunks, but they're really soft little chunks. Again, with a lot of our cooking, you're cooking a little bit longer than probably you're used to if you're doing mostly Western cooking and over high heat. So if you kind of get that rhythm, it's so important, because when the tomato fully breaks down, a lot of that umami is kind of in there. And then when you add the spice blend into it, that's starting to really form a lot of that flavor profile. So I think we're hot here. I don't measure out, but it's about 2 tablespoons. Again, you just, you don't want it greasy, but you want it to properly cover your pan. You don't want a dry pan when you're cooking on high heat, medium-high heat.
I'm sure the pan for a second.
Yeah. So I'm just, there we go. Okay, and should have put this in a bowl. I didn't. It's okay. So I'm going to tomato. So if I was using the garlic clove, I would probably start with the garlic clove just to open it up a little bit for 30 seconds so some of that flavor comes out, and then add the tomato. And use the garlic paste. The garlic paste can get a little bit sparky, it's a little bit thicker, so it doesn't need a kind of first thing. I'll just sort of start here a little bit, let a little bit of that water release, and then add the garlic paste into that. But honestly, it doesn't matter that much. Cooking this up. So this takes about, this is a medium tomato. I actually have 2 small tomatoes. You want them to be ripe. The ripe tomatoes are what bring out that umami flavor. The vine, I tend to go for instead of 1 big one or those larger ones, just 2 smaller vine tomatoes. I just find the flavor profile is better, and it adds, it's the base of your flavor for this dish. So I also have started using, I'm going to probably use it more in some of these videos, the high quality Italian crushed tomatoes. I've used the Pony brand, which I think is excellent. Roma. I'm almost gonna, especially in the winter, maybe just start replacing fresh tomato with that, because the flavor is excellent and it really works well with these dishes when you're forming the masala base. So here we go. You can see the water's starting to come out. It's kind of happening pretty quick. The oil is even starting to separate a little bit, but it's still pretty hard. I'm pushing it down and it's still pretty hard. So I'm just, probably 2 more minutes is probably what it needs to really, and this is important. I like to spend time here because I've said this in the Rogan Josh. I think if you kind of do 2 things really well, which is make sure you have great spices, which is what we are trying to offer when we do this, fresh ground. I think only one of our spices yet is not organic, but just really high quality, organic, last season spices that we have
globally sourced.
Globally sourced for the best, really the best spices we can find, ethically sourced, responsibly sourced, with sensitivity to the way the spices are grown, to the wages that are being paid to the farmer. And we're just continuing to improve upon that. We have so many spices that we use, and that's just a big mission of ours as we sort of are venturing down this road. But the flavor profile is really, really amazing here. And that's number 1. That's what you want. Number 2 is, you want to make this base properly. Anything you're going to do on the stovetop for new cooking, you're forming pretty much some kind of what I call a masala paste first. It can be tomato and onion, just tomato as in this case. Sometimes it's just the oil and the spices, and you just got to cook up the spices. But in this case, when you get the paste down and you cook the spices right, that's the second, layer of flavor. So getting the spices and the flavor profile of your tomato masala paste down is literally, that's where the flavor is. So if you mess up along the way, other things, you're going to be less critical as long as you have your flavor profile down, really. So in that way, Indian cooking is very easy. And so we're really cooking down pretty quickly here. I think you can see most of it is broken down. I always keep water on the side because when you cook on the higher heat, your pan can start to burn. Now this is an easy dish. The tomatoes releasing water. It's a dish that I'm actually using a non-stick pan for. Don't feel the need to do that right now, but still keep it on the side because you never know when you need it. When you need it, you kind of need it right away. All right. So this looks pretty good. And see, I want to see kind of how it's very soft. The water is released. The oil is separated. That's a big indicator. Sometimes the oil separates before the tomato actually softens. So, okay. So now I'm just going to add salt. This is 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Here. I'm going to add our mushroom masala. And it's the whole packet. I'm going to keep saying it. I think sometimes people see the spices. There's not a ton in here, so it doesn't have that dramatic of a oh my god effect, but all of it. All of it. It's not like you're adding a packet of red chili in. This is pretty mild. It's just got a little hint of heat, but there's so many other spices in there. It's so flavorful. It's really, we spent honestly months and months and months getting this spice blend proportion right to a proper serving of spices. So give it a try. If you want to adjust it later because you feel like there's too much or too little, fine, that's fine. But really, just know that a lot of effort went into really making sure that a pound of mushrooms and this mushroom masala packet are perfectly proportional.
By the way, if you're watching at home, you have one of our packets, you might notice we now have a QR code on the back. So if you scan that, it will go to a very short video that'll also show you how to cook Moji Masala. And on the back of all our packs is a shopping list, so you know exactly what you need to buy.
Okay, so now here, I think you don't need a lot to open it up. This isn't like a ton of spice. It's a couple tablespoons worth for this dish. I can smell it. When you start to smell it, that's a good sign that it's starting to open up. It's starting to cook. I like to go a little bit longer. I don't want to burn it. Now since I'm on medium heat, I can go a little bit longer than maybe if I were on high heat. It's not going to burn. I am going to add a drop of water just to keep it wet. It's not burning here because it's non-stick, but you hear the sizzle? That's what you want. Don't put too much water. If you put too much water, it's like stew. You're going to have like stewed tomatoes. That's not what you want. You want just to keep it a little wet. See how it's getting a little wet there? And the beauty of mushrooms is it releases a ton of water. So when you cook down the mushrooms, water release, it will keep that pasty feeling going. So you tend to not to need to add as much water. So I don't know, maybe I've been doing this 2 minutes. I think that is really good. It smells so good. I mean, this is just, as you get more comfortable with the cooking, you're going to start to realize the smell. You're going to start, the visual and the smell really start to tell you a lot about where you are in the cooking process. I forgot to do it, but it's okay. I can still do it. I'm going to add the garlic paste. This is what I love about the cooking. Not too late. Okay. Mix the garlic paste in, let that cook. So nice. What's nice about the garlic paste, which I also like, it's a paste. It's ground up, so it's just gonna blend into the paste like just a lot more evenly. The garlic comes great too when the garlic simmers after a little while. It also does the same thing, but it's just a little bit easier. Touch of water. Just get the pastiness, keep that pastiness going, keeping it a little wet, and letting the garlic cook a little bit. That's it. Garlic cooks pretty quickly without, you don't want to overcook it because you can get that burnt flavor. And now I'm going to add the mushrooms. So it like fills up. I don't like to use too big a pan because the mushrooms shrink. So much water gets released and it shrinks. And this is the right size here, if you can see here. But honestly, if you have a bigger pan, that's fine too. Not a big deal. But you don't want too much edge remaining of the pan. And while normally I wouldn't crowd a pan too much, with mushrooms it works great. Spinach too. So now I am going to add a little more water. I just want to keep that. I want to get that paste all over everything. If it's a little too dry, because as you're cooking on the high heat, the water does evaporate. The little bit of wetness allows me to coat the spices really well. Coat the mushrooms really well. So good. So now I used to not make this that often because JD doesn't like mushrooms somehow. I don't know how. And my daughter used to love them, and now she does not like them. I don't know what's going on there. I feel like there's a little mushroom conspiracy.
Yay,
and then I realized I can eat a pound of mushrooms pretty much like in one sitting if someone gives it to me. So I make them for me, which I love.
A pound of mushrooms.
I love it with rice. I'm like so traditional with my new cooking. Like I just crave it, especially with the weather, although it's a little hot today, but just give me a bowl of rice and some of the gobi or this mushroom, and I'm like in a little dollop of yogurt. I'm like super set. But this dish, because it is, it's a saute, it's drier. You could put it in a wrap. You could, if you have some naan bread, use it with that, or some pita bread. You can, honestly, it's so well, like this, if you sort of finish sauteing this and do it as a pasta sauce, in that case you could slice the mushrooms, make them thinner, or maybe save half of it, and then add it to a pasta sauce. It really would make a lovely, lovely vegetarian, like a red vegetarian sauce. I've done that. It's delicious. It's different, not a traditional sauce, obviously. And that would use like a simple marinara if I did that, because you don't want too many of the Italian spices sort of competing necessarily versus complementing what's going on here. So again, I hope you can see it. A lot of water is coming out. The paste is keeping wet on its own now, which is exactly what you want. You really want that process to continue. So some people, again, you might be like, okay, these mushrooms are they're done. You can eat mushrooms raw, so they're kind of done when you decide they're done. You don't want to burn them. But I like to cook a little bit longer. Just sort of the more patience you have and the longer you can kind of keep the cooking process going a little bit, the more flavor is just going to is really going to seep in there. A cheating way to do it is you can add a little bit of water, put the lid on, and cook it for 4 or 5 minutes, checking to make sure it's not burning, and then cook it down a bit if you want. It can save time, and if you don't want it standing over a pot or pan and doing that, it's totally fine. But if you have a little bit more patience, just an extra few minutes, you're going to get a naturally, I just want people to see this, I didn't even need onion. You just get a naturally beautiful, thick curry. And a little bit, and then the mushrooms still have some texture and bounce to them, but they're not soggy. So that, because I want the curry, I want the flavor, but I still want to maintain the texture of my vegetable. I don't tend to put the lid on and almost steam it. But everyone's different, and if you're just I don't want to do this, I'm gonna put the lid on, go for it. It'll still be delicious. Alright, so this is really good. We can stop here, literally. That's how quick this is. I didn't time it, but I'm guessing it was a 10 or 12 minute dish. Let's give it a little try. This is also important because sometimes you may forget to put the salt, or you may have it looks cooked, but it's not. Spoon. I'm just gonna try it and make sure it's done. This is important. It's a good time to do it because you can make adjustments. Thank you. I forgot to do it. Thank you. It's hot, but really good. I'm not gonna do it on camera, but I am gonna cook it 2 more minutes because I feel like that last bit of trailing flavor is just plain mushroomy versus like really tasting it. And now look how much curry I have.
Yeah, Pusher Shireen says we need to keep cooking it for the aroma.
It does smell great, actually. So I love this, you know, and I have to tell you, I do this with wedding cremini. I feel like, I don't know what it is, maybe there's a little bit more water coming out. I'm getting much more curry here. Much, you know. And by the way, I use curry as a generic term to be like the liquidy part that forms your masala paste, which is what it is. Whereas the dishes really signify like how you make it. But that's what the word curry kind of refers to. It's just this, literally this, which is the onions and the spices and the water all mixed together. And you always want it a little thicker. And that's it. If it gets watery, cook it down a minute or two. Get it to the right, you know, which actually I'm going to do. I want a little bit more punch to it. I'm going to cook it down a little bit, have it be a little less liquidy. I think as a side for Thanksgiving, cooking it down more is a good idea. It makes it a little bit more, you know, a little gravy would go great with the turkey, but you don't want it too soupy, right, as a side. As like a more of a East meets West side dish. So that's my suggestion. So that's it. Enjoy. We'll be back next week. And in the interim, we're going to send out some wonderful ideas that you can do with our sweet masala. This is the most amazing addition to any dessert that you're making. Take your favorite pumpkin pie, add a tablespoon of this into the mixture. Phenomenal. It will be so good. Cookies, whatever. This is like the most versatile, most delicious, sweet, and earthy blend for baking. You really enjoy it. We'll give you some ideas. Or you can check out our website too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.